Hello again everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. As you've probably noticed, my YouTube videos and blog posts have now decreased from every Monday to bi-weekly on a Monday, and that is because I am in the middle of recordings for my new podcast, Engage, Educate and Empower, which aired on March 19th and showcases guests from around the world who are talking about bullying, mental illness, suicide, child abuse and neglect, addictions, adoption, foster care, homelessness in children, teenagers and young adults. So please be sure to check out my webpage www.traceymaxfield.com for a link to all the upcoming podcasts. They'll be aired weekly every Thursday. So today I'm going to be talking to you about HPD, Histrionic Personality Disorder in children and teenagers. My name is Tracey Maxfield. I'm a retired nurse, author, peer specialist, educator, and stop bullying and mental health advocate. So histrionic personality disorder is, again, one of the many personality disorders that are collectively grouped together in the DSM-5. And the American Psychiatric Association defines histrionic personality disorder as a personality disorder characterized by a pattern of excessive attention-seeking emotions, including an excessive need for approval and inappropriate seductive behaviour. Now, I think what's important to remember is that many kids, especially teenagers, experience emotional outbursts. They may engage in some risk-taking behaviours, and they may dress provocatively or inappropriately. And they also kind of seek attention. However, these teen behaviours are not the same as HPD, histrionic personality disorder. Teens with HPD lack a sense of self and self-worth and constantly need the approval and love of others. If the teenager is not the focus of attention, he or she will automatically feel unappreciated and will do whatever it is necessary to be the center of attention, even if it means using extreme and inappropriate behaviors. I want you to remember that. So those with HPD are said to be lively, dramatic, vivacious, enthusiastic, and self-centered. Now, I think what's important is that when we review personality disorders, and already we've done narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, you may see some similarities. And I think you may see more similarities maybe with narcissistic personality disorder. The difference between histrionic and narcissistic is that narcissistic personality disorder, there is no empathy. The person, the child, the teenager who has a narcissistic personality disorder has no empathy. So if we think now, well, what could be the causes? Now, there is no one direct specific cause of HPD, but it is thought to be caused by a number of factors, primarily 3 factors. 1, genetic. Children of parents with HPD have a slightly higher risk of going on to developing the disorder. Neurochemical. Now, research has found that those diagnosed with HPD have highly responsive noradrenergic systems, which is responsible for the synthesis, storage and release of a hormone, neurohormone called norepinephrine. It's a neurotransmitter. And what we know is that high levels of norepinephrine lead to anxiety proneness, dependency and high sociability. Makes sense. Another factor is environmental, and I always say we always have to look at the environment, the one that the children and the teenagers presently live in, and also the one in which they exist in, that's the home environment. So let's go back and think ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Children and teenagers who experience significant childhood trauma, such as abuse or neglect, abandonment, are at an increased risk of developing HPD. For example, a lack of caregiver attention can lead to the child or teenager developing strategies of attention seeking and shallow interaction. Now, it may be worthwhile you actually going back and checking the blog and video that I did on attachment disorders, because you can see there's also some similarities there. Now, of interest, approximately 65% of females are diagnosed with HPD compared to about 35% of males. And the reason why is that they think that most males probably do not identify there is an issue, or they do not seek treatment. Also, HPD is seen to be diagnosed more frequently in Hispanic and Latin American cultures and less frequently in Asian cultures. So, for an accurate diagnosis of HPD, very specific symptoms have to be present. Now, what we do know is that whilst the symptoms of HPD can develop from a very early age, the child teenager is not usually diagnosed until they're approximately 15 years old. But we've heard many parents comment that, and teachers even, that they knew something was different about the child or the teenager, and that they had some attention-seeking behaviours. So for a diagnosis of HPD in a teenager, he or she must have 5 specific character traits that have been present for at least 1 year. And the mnemonic, praise me, PRAISEME, succinctly breaks down these particular symptoms and character traits. So praise me, P, provocative, seductive behaviour. R, relationships are considered to be closer and more intimate than they actually are. A, attention seeking, constantly seeking assurance and reassurance from others. I, influenced easily by others and by circumstances. S, speech style. A teenager with HPD wants to impress others but seems almost childlike in the responses, because either they cannot introspect well enough to respond appropriately and give a better description, or they're too disinterested or distracted to bother. Now, the World Health Organization and the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, identify the use of specific statements as indicative of classic HPD. And you'd be very surprised what these statements are, because teenagers kind of use them all the time. It was just like, weird, and because it's yucky. Apparently those are very classic HPD statements. Now remember, this is a symptom and it also must present with the others. So continuing the mnemonic, I don't know what's wrong with my words today, of praise me, we go to E, emotional lability and shallowness. M, makeup, overly concerned with appearance, and usually dresses self to attract attention. And E, exaggerated emotions, very theatrical, can be likened to a drama queen. Now, as you can see, I'm cheating a little bit here. I'm relying on a little bit of my notes because I need little bits of refreshers because I've been kind of preoccupied with the podcast. Now, I think one of the challenges is that as you identify, many of these symptoms can be thought of as entirely subjective, not objective. Therefore, before an accurate diagnosis of HPD is made, the teenager should see a psychiatrist who should review the teenager's history. And interestingly, this includes their medical history, their social history, their family history and background, their behavior and appearance. It's when they're sitting talking with the psychiatrist, their mannerisms, their communication style, what they say, what they don't say, their ability to maintain eye contact, and also their body language and appearance, how they're dressed, makeup they're wearing, hairstyle, all kind of give an indication of whether or not the teenager actually has HPD or another mental disorder. Now, what we have to remember is that it's very, very rare that a teenager will have HPD on its own. Usually they can have one or more other mental disorders, and this is actually known as a dual diagnosis. And they can include an anxiety or panic disorder. Very common is a depressive disorder. Substance abuse disorder. They can also have a borderline personality disorder along with a histrionic personality disorder, and that is extremely challenging. They can have attachment disorders, as I've mentioned before, eating disorders, somatoform disorder, and an antisocial personality disorder. And actually, I'll be discussing antisocial personality disorder in a later YouTube video and blog post. Now, a teenager living with HPD may not realize that there's an issue, and other people short term may not think there's a problem because they're just so excitable and gregarious and vivacious and the life and soul of the party and happy. It's only as they get to know them over a period of time that some of the issues seem to stand out more, and that's when the teenager starts to experience some real challenges. So as we identified, usually another mental disorder occurs with HPD. And so because we know that there are an increased risk of depression and anxiety, we have to look at the treatment and the management that is required to help the teenager with that, because as we know, they may need medications, they most certainly will need counseling and therapy, and along with that comes the potential of self-harm, non-suicidal self-injury, and even suicidal ideation. They will have difficulty functioning in school and social settings because people are going to grow tired of the attention-seeking behaviour after a while. They are unable to maintain long-term friendships and relationships because of this behaviour. And we will usually find that, as I've said before, the exaggerated drama queen, a teenager with HPD either plays the diva or the victim. Either way, it's attention-seeking behaviour. They may engage in risky behaviours, as I've mentioned before, self-harm, but it could also be alcohol, drugs, unprotected intercourse. Remember, they respond to others in their environment, and they can be easily intimidated and coerced to follow suit. And so to be popular and to be liked, yes, I will have sex with you. Yes, I will try marijuana. Yes, I will have a glass of wine. We have to be very, very careful because they will get themselves into situations that they may not be able to get themselves out of. Another concern, and we see this an awful lot in teenage girls who have HPD, is their sexually seductive, manipulated, exaggerated, or extroverted behaviors may place them in very unsafe situations, such as online sexual predators, cyberbullying, even an affair with an adult teacher. Research has shown that many 15, 16-year-old girls who end up having a relationship with an adult teacher is because of their sexual behaviors and their attention seeking. Now, it's not right, certainly not appropriate, but it does put them in that risky situation. Also, a teen may threaten or attempt suicide to get attention. If they're not getting the love and attention they seek, they will find whatever way is necessary to get attention. You have to remember, any attention is better than no attention. And of course, what happens then is that they will get involved with inappropriate people. So, criminal activity, gangs, the troublemaker, bullies. They may themselves become a bully. Popularity, people around them, wolf pack mentality, if you think back to earlier videos about bullying. Now, there is no cure for HPD. However, with appropriate treatment, behaviours and emotional responses can be managed, and most teenagers can actually live happy, productive lives. Treatment includes psychotherapy, talk therapy. Now remember, medications may be given if the teenager is in a very acute depression or has a profound anxiety disorder. Initially, treatment is going to be slow and ongoing because what happens is that the teenager may be very emotionally needy and may actually challenge the boundaries of the therapist and client relationship. And so ground rules need to be set, and it takes time to build a relationship of trust and openness. What therapy does, it helps the teenager to understand the motivation and fears behind his or her thoughts and behaviour, and how to form more positive and mutually beneficial friendships and relationships. What can parents do? Well, dealing with a child or teenager with HPD is not easy. I think patience and understanding is key to helping the teenager continue to move forward and develop the skills and strategies necessary to manage his or her own behaviours and reactions. But some helpful suggestions include: be actively involved in the treatment plan and follow the therapist's suggestions. Sometimes they may seem a little bit off to you and you're like, why do I have to do that? But everything is for the ultimate good, so follow the suggestions. Ensure the treatment plan is followed, follow up appointments, medications, taken if prescribed, and also if they have a dual diagnosis, that the treatment and if there's any medications needed, that's followed through on. Help the teenager manage their thoughts and be supportive and responsive, not reactive. So do not give in to them, but also do not be hypocritical or nasty or judgmental. I think what is key and what the therapist is going to show you is you need to understand the differences between positive and negative attention seeking behavior. And so also learn how to, how to manage those. You need to continue with a holistic approach. I'm huge for a holistic approach, right? So it's a daily routine. You set boundaries, give the teenager household tasks to do. They are still part of the family, and it's only together as a family that you're going to work through this. Healthy diet, fluids, exercise, good sleep. Talk with family, with siblings, with the school, so they also know how to manage the behaviors. I suggest you speak with the counsellor or the social worker and get more additional resources and information on HPD so you can learn yourself. Consider going to a parent support group or maybe going to therapy for yourself. Monitor the behaviors, drugs, alcohol, self-harm, suicidal talk or behaviors. Be very alert to that because that is high risk and you can't forget that. Maybe help the teenager not get stuck in negative thoughts. Remember, we're a nation where despite all the positive things that are happening to us, we will dwell on a negative aspect or a negative thought, and this leads to automatic negative thoughts, multiplies in the brain, ants, and then we get really hopeless and down on ourselves, and that's actually not very good for any child or teenager, but more so if you have histrionic personality disorder and you also have depression. Encourage the teen to express their thoughts and feelings in practical ways, such as expressing gratitude, writing music, playing music, poetry, art, journaling. As a family, talk about mindfulness and being present in the moment and appreciating things, and deep breathing exercises and relaxation techniques are good for everybody. I think another thing is you need to work together as a family to support the teen, and so if the teen is in therapy, consider also parent-child therapy or even family therapy, as well as looking after yourself. And I think last but not least, and I always say this at the end of every single video that I do, and I'm offering suggestions to parents, you must remain calm. Do not berate or humiliate the teenager. You must be very non-judgmental, supportive and respectful. They must be heard. You must listen and you must be there. And the most important thing is show love. So I hope you found this YouTube video helpful. Please go to my website, www.traceymaxfield.com, for the accompanying blog article. And also, when you're on the website, you can follow up on previous YouTube videos and blog posts, for example, borderline personality disorder and attachment disorders, if you wanted a quick refresher. Now, before I sign off, I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and please consider subscribing. You just press below and then click on the little bell so you get notifications every time a YouTube video is produced. Next time, so it will then be April, this is March. In April, my next YouTube video is going to be about something which is a hot topic lately and has actually just been on Dr. Phil: gaming disorder in children and teenagers. What you need to know and what you can do about it. Thank you again for your time.